Hello, and thank you for joining the Champion Within podcast, your premier go-to spot for unlocking your winning mindset. Whether you're an athlete looking to elevate your game to the next level, a coach leading the charge, an enthusiastic parent cheering from the sidelines, or an educator molding young minds, the Champion Within podcast episodes are packed with value, sharing the tools and strategies to unlock your potential and rise to new heights. Hosted by mentor, coach, and mindset leader Kate McCauley. Let's sit back and enjoy today's episode while discovering your champion within. And now, here's Kate.
Hey champions, thank you for joining us on the Champion Within today. I am so excited to share my guest with you today because she's a little secret in my world that I'm getting to give all of you. Mandy Sciacchitano is someone that came into my life after I left my teaching career. When I first met her, it was because I was building my business, and I will fully admit, when I was on the group calls with all of the other women, I really was sitting there thinking, just give me all of the things so I can do this. I wanted her to just almost give me a list. Tell me the way to do it so I can follow the step-by-step plan. I learned so much during that program, and I learned to let go a little bit of having to follow the list. But I also learned that Mandy does so much more than the coaching within that business space. She is an energy worker. I learned probably through some stalking. I used to say on the calls, I'm going to stalk people and get to know them. And they would be like, this lady's a little crazy. But it was really from a place of love. I just wanted to learn so much. I first dipped my toe into the energy world with Mandy in a Reiki session. I had no clue what I was getting into. It was quite literally life-changing. I was interviewed for episode 1 of season 4 by my son. If you go back and listen to that episode, he asked me a question, if any of this visualization has come into reality for me. I paused and thought, oh my goodness, it actually has. And it was that Reiki session where I saw myself speaking, and it wasn't exactly the way I visualized it, which I know that that isn't how it happens. But I realized that, oh my goodness, back in 2022, when I did this for the first time, that just happened for me this past November. Mandy's going to tell you a little bit more about who she is, but I want to tell you that what really transformed me is the past 3 months when I got to work with her one-to-one. I went into it, again, thinking, this is what I need, just like that business program. Give me all of the things. I thought I need to step out of my comfort zone because I'm leveling up. And I got so many things that I didn't even know that I needed. We'll talk a little bit about that on the episode today. I'm going to let her introduce you because I think she's going to be able to tell you exactly what she does way better than I can. Mandy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your amazing work today. How are you?
Oh my gosh, Kate, that was such an incredible introduction. And you said some things there that I didn't even really know, like some things about your time in the business coaching program and all of that. So super cool to learn about all of this. And I couldn't be happier to be here. Honestly, I think of all of the people that I've worked with, you are one of the people that I feel like makes the fewest excuses. I have never seen someone take so much unapologetic action and just believe in themselves so thoroughly and completely. I think I've told you this every single time we've talked, but it's really inspiring to me how you just make no excuses and you make things happen. It really is an honor to be here and to
thank you for that.
Share these things about me for sure.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to dive a little deeper into that. I do want you to tell people about who you are, but when we dive deeper into that, I am going to be honest with people and tell you that oftentimes people say things like that to me that, wow, you don't make excuses or you fully believe in yourself. And it isn't always completely true. I think sometimes people think that about me, and I have to be willing to say that's not really who I am. And I will fully admit that is why I work with you, because I know that I have to do this work for myself so that I can get to those places. And I will push myself. We'll talk a little bit deeper into that. There's some things that I'm going to share that maybe you don't even know, that my listeners may be a little shocked about too. But I think it's important to share it, because from the outsider looking in, especially when I work with my clients, they may think, wow, look at this journey. And I think it's important for them to hear some of the things that I don't always share. I do Instagram and different things, but I don't always share maybe some of the things that people should be sharing, or the shoulds and supposed to. But anyway, we'll get to that. But if you were to go into a room and before you walked in there, someone had just introduced you, what would have they said about who you are?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know what someone else would say about me, but I'll tell you how I would introduce myself.
Okay.
So, I consider myself to be, first and foremost, a leadership coach. My primary training is in coaching. Beyond that, I'm an energy worker. I work with energy. I believe we're all energy workers, which is something I'm really excited to jump into with everyone today. I'm just really keen on helping people heal. It's that simple. I specifically love working with leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, managers, coaches, all of these sorts of people, because I believe that people in these sorts of leadership positions have so much more to offer sometimes than what they're offering, but they have things to heal inside of them in order to step into like that next level of greatness. And once you do, the ripple effect of that is just infinite. It also just warms my heart, because I know that every one person that I coach, the ripple effect of that is going to be so big. That's exactly what I want. I use a lot of different tools, a lot of different modalities, specifically Reiki, like you mentioned, breath work, EFT tapping. I do a lot of somatic embodiment tools. And my main goal is just to take all of this kind of like spiritual woo-woo energy stuff and make it accessible, make it grounded, make it understandable, make it easy so that people can incorporate it into their daily lives and really utilize it to help them move forward.
I love that introduction. And I think people would probably say that and so much more about you. I often describe you as this goddess. Sometimes it's hard for me to describe because you are magical in many ways for me, although I know it is directly related to science because of the work that I do. I think that you have a way of creating a space that makes me and other people, when I've been in group, they express it, feel safe to get vulnerable and go to a place that we didn't even know we needed to go, as you mentioned, to heal. That is really what happened with me when we've worked together in one-to-one sessions through that 3-month program. And when I've jumped in to do things, when you're offering group programs and that business coaching, a lot of times I think this is why I'm doing it. And then something else happens. We're going to dive deeper into some of those things. And I would love maybe for you to even teach on a very basic level something today to our listeners so they could just learn a little bit about it. That last part you said about making it relatable is so important to me, because the people I work with are very leery of what this mindset thing is, because we can't see inside the brain. I'm going to fully admit to you, when I started doing it on a deeper level with you, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I read about it, did some research, but I really didn't know. You have to experience it to understand, but there's a fear around that. Do you find that with people when they first start working with you, or do people mention that to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think if there weren't a healthy fear around it, then that would be an indication to me that maybe something is a little off. Because
Sure.
that's how it's supposed to be, right? Our subconscious mind, our survival brain is wired to be reluctant to try new things that are outside of our comfort zone because they could be dangerous. So I think it's healthy to have that fear. And that is why in so many of the workshops and presentations and things that I do, I include so much of the science, because the science behind a lot of this just helps the brain to relax a little bit and feel more safe in knowing that, okay, this isn't just some crazy witchy stuff that
Right.
she's putting a spell on me or whatever. Like there's actually some scientific evidence behind this, and there's a safety that's created around that.
Yeah, I think that's important. Like you said, it just calms your nervous system. You have all these thoughts of what exactly are we doing? What are we jumping
Yeah.
at?
I mean,
Especially,
your brain has to be on board in order for you to really drop into your body, right?
100%.
We are thinking creatures. We overload our brain. We place a huge emphasis on the mental, rational thought process that we go through. And I believe that in order to really heal, in order to really move through the world in a grounded, confident way, we have to be able to drop into our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a certain amount of safety that has to be created both in the body and in the mind in order for that to happen.
Definitely. I love that you weave the science into that.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the body, because a lot of the work I do is with athletes. I have athletes, I have coaches, I have people in the corporate space who definitely need to work with you. And we will put that in the show notes, by the way, those of you who are listening, so you can connect directly with Mandy, reach out to her to work one-to-one, or bring her into your corporate space. When we are talking about the body to move there, you've put something up on Instagram recently. And of course, I follow since I'm working with you and pay attention. I read your emails, all of those things. I was surprised, I'm going to admit, that you put something out there saying, I didn't really consider myself a runner, an athlete. And I thought, what? I'm watching you train to compete in a marathon. I see you hop on a plane and, you're running with your friend. You're talking about the training. You're out doing it at the beautiful beach in Miami. And I'm looking at this thinking, what? Then you and I talked a little bit deeper about your journey, that you did play sports and you were even captains of some of these teams, but you didn't really think you were an athlete. Can you tell us first a little bit about who you were during that journey? Maybe just tell us a little bit about what you played, what you did, and then how you started this running. And then we'll move into that identity shift.
Yes.
Becoming an athlete, really.
Apologies also, my cat is here.
Okay.
Anyone who knows me knows she interrupts everything that I do. So, so many of our identities are formed when we're young, when we're children. And unless we are very consciously updating those identities, they just stick around. And I think one of the identities that I formed as a child, teenager, even a young adult, is that I'm not athletic. I always participated in athletic endeavors. I took dance classes. I was on the gymnastics team. I was on the swim team. I played 3 sports in high school, but I was never very good at them. In terms of when I say good, I mean, I didn't win a lot or much of anything at all. I always was told, like in swimming, your strokes are beautiful, or in other things, your form is beautiful, or I can feel your energy on the field, or whatever it is. But I just didn't do a whole lot of winning.
Okay.
And I wasn't very fast, and I'm small, I'm compact. So I don't have, the long legs that make me fast and all of that. And so I just formed this identity that I'm not an athlete. And the past couple of decades, honestly, movement has been so important to me. And I think, when we start talking a little bit more about energy work, movement is a big part of that. And I move every day, whether it's a strength training program or running or yoga, Pilates, I do all those things. And I did run a half marathon last year. Someone said something to me shortly after that about being a runner. And I corrected them. I was like, oh, no, I'm not a runner. She was like, what do you mean? You just ran a half marathon. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not a runner. And then I thought about it and I was like, why am I saying that I'm not a runner? And it just goes back to that identity that I had formed at such a young age about what I thought an athlete should be, right? We have all those shoulds in our mind. This is who an athlete is. It's someone who's fast. It's someone who wins a lot. It's someone who's svelte and looks a certain way, right? And so I created all of these reasons why that was not me. And honestly, there's a certain safety in that. If we're to look at this on a subconscious level, our subconscious mind does this because if I don't call myself an athlete, then I'm not going to be disappointed if I don't win, right? But if I'm sitting here claiming, I'm a runner, I'm an athlete, then the expectation raises where, she better be improving her times and she better be winning and she better be doing all these things. And so I realized that this is actually a pattern that I have in other parts of my life too, where it's like, I just like under promise and over deliver, it feels a lot better than if I claim something for myself and fall short. And that is definitely a part of that. Hopefully we'll talk about at some point today, that pain avoidance that is wired into us.
Yeah. So when that person said that to you most recently, and you've thought to yourself, why am I not calling myself a runner? And that moment where you thought, wait a minute, I just ran a half marathon. Did you then start doing something with mindset or your energy work to shift that, to convince and rewire your brain to say, I am a runner, I am an athlete? Is there some sort of work that you're continually doing that maybe someone else listening right now, maybe it's someone who exercises all the time. Sometimes it's parents of my athletes. Maybe it's a former athlete who played in high school or even played in college. I find this sometimes if they didn't play D1, they feel, well, I only played, D3. What do you mean you only played D3? I'm like, that you still had a commitment there in school. I often say to them, if you're out running, you are a runner, and I have to help them rewire. Did something happen for you, or are you doing work to do that for yourself to make that shift happen?
Yeah. So I think if we want to shift an identity like this isn't something that I'm consciously working on right now. There's a lot of other things that I'm working on.
Okay.
And I think also too, at a certain point, it gets easier. Once you've been doing this work for a long time, the time is shortened between noticing something and being able to just claim it for yourself. And so I think just in the process of noticing and thinking about, okay, what would I say to someone else? If I was someone looking at me, what would I say to me? And I'd be like, if you move your body, you're an athlete.
Right. Yeah.
If you run 500 yards, you're a runner, right? Like, I just picked a random number, 500 yards. I don't even know. But I think that was easier for me to claim. If I'm doing identity work with someone who is perhaps struggling to name something for themselves, I'm probably going to take a two-pronged approach. It's going to be different for everyone. But the first is that I'm going to want to figure out why it feels unsafe in their body and start to create a sense of safety around it. So like I said before, for me, it was one of those things where, if I claim this, then I'm going to have to perform.
Right.
And so we have to kind of trace that back and be like, why do I think that? Who has these expectations of me? No one has those expectations now, but maybe who did? What part of me, what younger part of me still feels that way?
Right.
And then there's some inner child work to be done there. And then there's also subconscious rewiring around this, because so many of our identities are just stuck because we repeat them. And so we just have to plug something new in. And I really love using EFT tapping as a tool to subconsciously reprogram something like that.
Yeah. So many things I would love to pull from what you just said. First, I'm thinking of someone that I was lucky to be able to work with, and he was training for something related to a job, and he had to run. And he kept saying, I'm not a runner. I don't run. I can't hit this time. But he was out running every day. And he had done the test before and just barely missed it, and was training again and doing all the things. And really, it was going back to what you had exactly said, that from the past, a lot of things that people were saying to him and things he was saying to himself that he had to work on. And once he realized that, it was just an epic change for him to be able to let go of all of the things he thought he was supposed to be. And you also said something about when you are doing this work, it comes for a long time. It comes more naturally and it's quicker. You still have to do the work, but it comes a little bit quicker. And I find that for myself now when I'm doing this every day. I do these practices, and when you were saying you don't make excuses in these things, every day I am doing breath work. I am doing things where I say my intentions. I use the tapping, which we're going to talk about next. I do these things every single day. I think sometimes when I share that with people, they don't truly believe me that I'm doing it because they're like, that sounds great. I truly am doing it in the morning. I do it in the shower. I'm at the gym and I'm doing it there. I tell people, when you move your body, your brain grooves. When you just said that, the more you do it, the more it becomes a part of who you are. So it's almost just natural for you to say, this is what I need to do. And you realize, wait a minute, why am I saying I am not a runner? Where that client of mine just was saying it and didn't even think anything. I mean, he said it to me on our first call probably 15 different times, but I'm not a runner. I don't run. And I had to stop at the end, and we, really worked through that. So I think that piece is important to tell people this is a practice. This isn't a one-time thing where you come work with Mandy or me or whoever and say, I did this one time, EFT, breath work, and now I know I'm a runner, or I can perform on the swim team perfectly. It's a practice.
I'm so glad that you brought this up, because I think particularly as an energy worker, I get a lot of people who come to me and say they book a session, one session, not a package. And I don't actually offer single sessions to anyone but former clients anymore because of this. Because they'll book one session and they'll say, this is a problem, fix it.
Exactly.
And listen, healing is a lifelong thing. It's something that is constant for us. There will be harder moments and there will be softer moments in our healing journey, but you don't have to always be dependent on someone else for it. And that's what practices like this are for. There are going to be times when we need to be held in space by other people and supported in our healing. There will be times when you're doing healing on your own, but there's always going to be a next layer for you to uncover. And it's really not about a destination. It's not about being perfect. But what I noticed specifically in relation to what you're talking about is the more comfortable you get regulating your emotions and your nervous system, and then being able to go underneath that and discover the parts of you that are creating these disempowering stories, the easier it is for you to work with those parts of yourself. And so it just shortens the time. At the very beginning, when we're first starting, it feels like this huge insurmountable thing.
Right.
But the more you do it, the easier it gets, the faster it gets, the more comfortable with the process you get. And honestly, I think the crux of it is really emotional regulation. I don't think we're not taught in our society how to feel our feelings.
Very true.
We're not taught that it's acceptable to feel our feelings. So why would we be taught how to feel our feelings in ways that are healthy and helpful? Like, no, don't have feelings, right?
Yeah.
Put it aside, do it
No need for that.
But honestly, I think that this would change the entire world if everyone knew how to feel their feelings, because our feelings hold so much information.
Very true.
So much information. And once you learn how to feel your feelings, you're not afraid of them. You're not constantly pushing them aside, and you're not doing things to avoid feeling. So much of our behavior that we engage in every day is try to avoid pain or avoid discomfort or avoid feeling bad.
Yeah.
And if we weren't doing that, if we weren't afraid to feel anything because we trusted ourselves and we had a process that works for us, and we don't feel like we're going to get stuck in our feelings, imagine the risks that you would take. Imagine the ways that you would put yourself out.
And
it would change everything.
To connect this to the coaches, the athletes, even the people in the corporate space, when you're not doing something, you're not taking the shot in the game, you're not pushing yourself a little bit harder, you're not taking that risk in your business, or even if it's a small one, you think it's a giant big one, whatever it is, you're holding back. You're not saying what you need to say to the coach, having a tough conversation with your athletes, with a parent on your team. This is getting stuck in your body. You're not performing at your highest level. You're not having fun anymore. You start to just, there's so many things that happen. And once you start doing these things and do it on a regular basis and practice it, people say to me, and I'm sure you hear it too, I should have been doing this. Well, why wasn't I doing this? And the crazy part is then they start to perform better and they win and they take the risk and they see this was worth it. It's scary, but when you're not taking the shot, you're not scoring the point. When you're not taking a risk, you're not leveling up in your business, in your athletic journey, whatever it is, in your relationships, in life. So you think, and we all do this in our brain, that we're protecting ourselves and it's fear-based. But when you really step back and look at it from the outside looking in, you're staying exactly where you are and you're comfortable there. You know, you have to get uncomfortable and be vulnerable. So when you were talking about the EFT part of that, how you would say to someone else, you know, EFT is something I would love to do there. A lot of people aren't exactly sure what that is, and people call it tapping sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just briefly explain what it is to someone who maybe heard of it or maybe has never heard of it before?
Yes. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go back and add something to that part that we just said, because this is something that I think needs to be called out more in this space. It's wonderful that I think talking about therapy and trauma and boundaries and self-care and all of this stuff is getting normalized in pop culture, and it's happening more and more. I also think it's being weaponized in ways that aren't helpful. And what I see happening is a lot of people that are just removing themselves from discomfort in the name of self-care. And they're cutting people off. They are canceling people. They're removing people from their life. They're refusing to have difficult conversations. They're avoiding, they're walking away because of an unwillingness to feel discomfort. And I think that this is really detrimental, and it's not what it means to actually be doing the work. Right. And I just see it everywhere, you know, on Instagram, the talking heads, and it's just like, oh, remove yourself from this toxic situation and everyone's toxic and you have to walk away.
Right.
But we have to learn how to be in relationship with people and experiences that are real and messy and hard. And once you develop these skills to be emotionally resilient and trust yourself, you don't feel like you have to cut everyone out.
Right. Yeah, so, I would agree. I think there's a space for both.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying like there's no one that you need to set boundaries with, but I am saying that I think we're defaulting to that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's a hard, let's just say no to everything. And you can't do that in life. There are people that you are going to have to deal with that you are not going to get along with. And you have to have tough conversations with, so you can move forward. Some people that you actually care about and love that you need to have tough conversations with. And to just walk away and never have that conversation, you hold resentment and it builds up, and it doesn't end well, typically.
This is actually a great segue into talking about EFT tapping.
Okay.
Because we think it's about that person, but usually it's not.
Yeah.
Usually it's about the feelings that that person is causing in us. And what we're doing or not doing with those feelings.
So here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell people about EFT and what it is. And then I'm going to get really honest here and tell people when we started working together, I'm going to share actually my two intentions that I created. And I'll share a little bit more about the one. And then I'm going to not give any names out, but share a little story about how that was true for me, that it was really more about an issue that I had to deal with the situation, and maybe a little bit about the unwillingness on my part to handle and forgive, so that people can understand that.
Perfect.
Because I think that story will help them connect with how we could use EFT here. So tell them, what is EFT? Because right now people are wondering, what are they talking about?
Yes. Okay. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. You might also hear it referred to as tapping, just colloquially. And essentially what it is a therapeutic technique that's based in the science of Chinese medicine that basically says that we have these energy meridians in our bodies, and anything that is not peace and ease and flow means that there's energy stuck somewhere in these meridians. And that is both physically, so any pain we're experiencing in the body, discomfort that we're experiencing in the body, as well as mentally and emotionally. Negative thoughts, hard, dense, heavy emotions, that sort of thing. When you go to an acupuncturist, for example, and they're placing the needles inside of your body, they are doing it on specific meridians that is helping the energy to flow with more ease. When we're tapping, we're having the same effect. We're tapping on those same meridians, and we are creating a vibration inside of our body that is both breaking up that stuck energy, and at the same time, it's stimulating the vagus nerve. your vagus nerve is what regulates your nervous system. So you can tap on these meridians and just bring the body down instantly without saying a word, because it is stimulating your vagus nerve, and your vagus nerve is going to then send the calm signal out to your body and shift you into rest and digest. Now, when you add words to it, especially words that are charged. So if you're tapping about a headache that you have, or if you're tapping about a big emotion that you're feeling, anger, frustration, as you speak about those things while you tap and your body is being calmed down through the tapping, it is reassigning subconsciously a different feeling, a different sensation in your body to what it is that you're tapping about. So you're essentially removing the charge out of the painful, hard, heavy thing and making it so much easier for you to face. And this is what I love about tapping, is because I'm not a person that believes in sweeping anything under the rug. I think the only way out is through. We have to feel our feelings to heal them. If we don't feel them, they're not going anywhere, right? We're not escaping them. And this is a way that forces us to face our feelings, but it helps create safety and regulate the nervous system at the same time and create shifts. So honestly, I just love this tool so much. I think I've done it with 5-year-olds. I've done it with 85-year-olds. It's so accessible to everyone, and it has so many benefits because you are learning to regulate your nervous system and you're learning to face your feelings and really reprogram them, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Let's be real for a minute. Stress is something we all deal with, right? Before work, during, after work, it's always there. But here's the thing. Not every stress-busting tool works for everyone. I always say if we were all the same, life would be boring. That's why I put together the Stress Buster Guide. It has a few different options. Some you'll love, some maybe not so much. And that's okay. I want you to find what clicks for you. It's totally free. Honestly, it's my most downloaded resource for a reason. After the show, I want you to go to the show notes, click the link, and grab it so you can start feeling more in control. No matter when stress hits you, there is a tool for you to calm your nervous system. You deserve to make that happen for yourself. I'm rooting for you always. Now let's get back to the podcast chat. I learned so much when I was working with you. Let me go back. When we started working together within your 3-month program, 1-to-1, I did this thinking I need to step out of my comfort zone and make space for being able to hold space for all of these people as my business is expanding. I need to level up as my business is leveling up and step out of my comfort zone. So I thought. And as I was getting involved in this, I say affirmations, have intentions that I use. I created some with you in your guidance, but it was my own words, as you were saying, words connecting things. And 2 of them that I was creating, it was really personal and business related. The first one was, I'm devoted to taking care of myself in mind, body, and spirit every single day, especially when it is inconvenient, because I was spending so much time within my business that I wasn't taking a walk, sleeping enough, eating lunch. There were days when I would be working so much that I would go to pick up my children from school and pause and think, did I eat lunch today? And I was just so busy. I truly didn't even know if I stopped to eat lunch. And I know a lot of parents, a lot of people in the corporate space can relate to that, because you get so overwhelmed and one thing after another is coming your way. And you want to be
living in your head too.
Right. You're living in your head thinking, did I do all the things? Can I get this done? I have to perform at the highest level, which goes back to my athletes and myself as an athlete as well, being able to be peak level of performance, but I'm not taking care of myself. Really, that doesn't make sense when I can stand back now and think. The second intention, which I can say now, but I'm going to share a story in a minute about this. was I am in flow with my business practices, bringing in consistent income, working with a team I trust, and doing what I love. Here's the story that everyone needs to know, because Mandy said in the beginning, my clients say to me, when people reach out to me, they say, this is amazing. I see this on Instagram, LinkedIn. You're so confident. I see you stepping out and doing this. Okay, great. Yes, I am doing that. And I'm transforming lives. And I love those people. I'm so grateful that they see that in me. I often don't see it in myself. One, you should know that. Two, I physically could not say the words, I am working with a team I trust. Literally, I was tripping over those words. I could not say it and memorize it. I was reading it from a paper, and Mandy doesn't even know this, but when I was off of a call with her, about to go out on a run, I'm reading it. I write it in my phone in my notes. I recorded myself saying it so I could hear it in my headphones. And I was thinking to myself, this is written wrong. This must be written wrong. I know Mandy guided me through this. This is written wrong somehow. It just doesn't flow together. I think she somehow, because what happens was Mandy and I were creating it. It was my words. And, she does a lot of energy work before I created that intention. And I was blaming Mandy in some ways, thinking, I don't know what Mandy's thinking with this. This doesn't sound like me. This isn't me. Team I trust. I don't have a team, and I needed a team because I couldn't physically handle all of this. And when I was then working through it and moving through it and using the tapping to do it, because then I had to say things and tap different areas and say things like, even though I don't feel trust right now, and move through those things. Over time, as Mandy was explaining, I could feel my body calming down, and I would breathe and do other things. And I quite literally, if you live near me, you may have seen me at the gym, out for a run, doing these tapping things. People were stopping and looking at me as they were driving at a stop sign, probably wondering, is she okay? Because those people out on a run are not tapping their head, under their eye, under their nose, their chin, all these different places on top of their head. A lot of times people may think, as an athlete, you tap on top of your head. It means take me out of the game. I need, help me. I need a timeout.
Tapped out, done.
Tap out. I'm tapping out. There were some people giving me a side eye, thinking, what is she doing? Especially when I was at the gym and I'm on a bike, spinning, doing things. And I then started doing this. So as time went on and I was doing this, it started to, and I would send Mandy messages, this doesn't sound right. And she very gently would say, we can rewrite it, but you have to move through things. Then we uncovered that this really was connected to me leaving my teaching career when I started reflecting. And I don't know if you remember, I almost held leaving my teaching career and the director of HR saying to me, you will never work again, this whole thing. And I said, well, here's my cell phone number. You can call I didn't say my cell phone number. He said, I'm going to call your next employer and tell them that you resigned. You will never work again. He thought I wanted to be a teacher somewhere else. He did not know. I didn't even know what I was going to do. And in that moment, I said, here's the cell phone number. You can call her, meaning my next employer. I held this as a badge of honor for so long, telling people this is what I told him. And now here I am running my business, but I was still so angry and holding resentment that I physically couldn't say, I trust someone to work with me. So then, Mandy, could you tell them maybe what did you do, or what would you do in this situation? Or you could say what we did to help move through that. If somebody is doing that with the tapping, and then I'll share what happened next for me.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to name some pieces of this because I think that's really important. So what you experienced in that moment when you were saying this thing out loud and it didn't seem right, and you were like, okay, Mandy messed this up.
Right.
That is what we call resistance. Like, I think we hear some of these terms a lot and we don't really know what it is. Mm-hmm. So you were experiencing that resistance, and the resistance was coming up for you because it was edgy, it was stretchy, but also because you were holding on to something underneath the surface that just was not allowing you to accept it.
Right.
And so what we had to do was kind of peel back those layers and be like, okay, why is there resistance here? Resistance is just pointing us to something.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my favorite things that I say all the time is everything that's not love is a call for love. So when we're feeling resistance to something, it's like, okay, let's get curious. What's going on here? What is this pointing to? And so with you, what we had to peel back was like, okay, what's underneath this? Why are you resistant to trusting someone? Why are you resistant to hiring someone? Like, what is the fear that's happening here? And when it comes to EFT, so I think a lot of the pop EFT that you see, you know, like the videos on YouTube and stuff like that, it's helpful to get you started. But these scripts are made to be universal. So, you know, we can tap on anxiety and like people have a universal experience with anxiety and great, that will like help on the surface. But when we really want to go deep and pull out the layers of this, we have to do it in a really intentional way. And so we have to tap specifically on your experience. And what happens is when we do a couple of rounds of tapping on what's happening on the surface, I'm feeling resistance to this. This doesn't feel right for me. I feel scared. I feel fear. And we start to neutralize that top layer. Then other layers start coming up underneath that. And we found the anger and the frustration and that sort of proving energy that you were feeling. We also found some fear around taking on a new team member and being able to pay them and like, you know, the what ifs, right? What if this doesn't work? What if this doesn't happen, right? And so we're able to hit on all of those layers and start to neutralize all of them. And in this case, it required a little bit of energetic work as well on your part around forgiveness. And
I'm so glad you mentioned the forgiveness, because when I was sharing that with you and we were talking about it and you knew my journey, which was important, getting to know the people. I think you're saying that, you know, just someone on the internet can get you started so you can learn about it. But when you work with someone and they get to know you and know where you want to go, where you were, it makes a difference.
They know what buttons to push.
Exactly. Which I definitely need that. And, you know, I think when we're working with people, for me, for example, I need someone who can keep it real and push in a certain way. And other people may need it to be a little more gently done. Same as like coaching your athletes. Same thing. You know, the athlete that you have to say something to before they get up to the volleyball line, or the athlete that you just have to joke around and say, did you eat fries today with your lunch? You know, it's totally getting to know that person. Same thing with this type of work. And I remember you saying when we were going through this, you were teaching me the Hawaiian prayer, Ho'oponopono. I may be saying
it. Yeah.
Yes. And when you said that to me, it's about forgiving and showing love, which all of my work does come from a heart-centered place. And I get to love people. And I truly do feel that way about my clients. And when I was an educator, that I was grateful to love my students, the school community. And I thought, you want me to send love to this guy? The hardcore Philly girl of me was thinking, I probably even said it to you, like, I don't know about this. I love this little Hawaiian thing. I love Hawaii, my favorite place on earth, but I'll try. And I did it, and I continue to do it. As we mentioned, it's a practice. And ironically, that same weekend, something in my personal life, someone said something to one of my children that set the mama bear off in me. And I was ready to come in hot with this situation and say, who the hell do you think you are talking to my daughter like that? Instead, I said, I love you. I forgive you, you know, myself, because this was me. This was my thing. Granted, this person was in the wrong, but I was able to bring it down and handle it in a way where I didn't, you know, come in real strong, which could have not only ruined a relationship with me and this person, but also my daughter's interaction with this individual, which would have been really bad. So it was tough and it was hard. I had to get vulnerable and be willing to do the work and forgive. And as you said, there was resistance. There is resistance. If you want to level up and you want to see change, you have to be willing to move from your logical mindset to a place of energetic and intuition and let yourself get uncomfortable and be vulnerable. It's not easy. So I appreciate when people say, you never make excuses, you do this. I do. I do sometimes. And I have to be willing to keep doing the work. So I just want people to know that. And what I did is I still say those things every day. I'm saying those things. I send forgiveness to 3 people. And then I say, universe, show me the way, which some people may say this is too woo-woo. But I do try to say that because I get to serve a lot of different people. And I don't want to narrow down. And these are the only people that I can work with, thinking about even that HR director. I have to keep coming back to doing the work. I think it's important for people to know that you don't always see the beginning of the work. You see the end result and the highlight reel on social media. Within the first month, I hired an assistant. I interviewed 17 women and hired an assistant. She is fucking phenomenal and she's killing it right now as we're recording. She does things that I didn't even know I needed. And it is because of doing the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also want to remind everyone that forgiveness does not make the other person right. It doesn't give them a free pass. All it does is liberate you from the heavy burden of carrying that around.
Right.
Obviously, you were carrying around that anger, that resentment, and it was blocking you from leveling up in the way you wanted to. And, that doesn't let him off the hook, right? It's not your fault that happened, but it is your responsibility to take care of it. You could have chosen to just be a victim to it. You could have chosen to hold on to that anger and be like, hell no, I am not letting him off the hook, right? We always have that choice. But, when I say that you're always out there doing the work, you're willing. Right? You're open to trying something new. You are not going to argue for your limitations over and over and over again. But you're open to experimenting. So much, I think, of personal growth work is an experiment.
So true.
Not everything works for everyone, right? Not everyone is going to love EFT tapping. Not everyone is going to love breath work. You have to just be willing to play with it. And you have to be willing to give yourself the benefit of the doubt in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I love that.
You can change. And I think sometimes I just see people arguing so vehemently for their limitations and why they can't do something and why something is hard for them and why it's always going to be hard for them. And I just wonder if they put as much effort and energy into arguing for their possibility, what would happen?
Right.
Because look at you now with your amazing freaking assistant who's going above and beyond and helping you in ways that you couldn't have even imagined. Yeah. And that was because you let yourself lean into possibility and you didn't stay arguing for why you couldn't do it.
Yeah, 100%. I will agree. I think, as you mentioned, it does require guidance. It isn't always Google something and follow this. It can get you started, as you mentioned, but you do need people to see things in you. You have to unwrap the feedback. It could be your coach if you're listening and you're an athlete. If this is a coach, maybe you have someone who mentors you to help you work with your athletes. If you're in the corporate space, somebody's giving you feedback, be willing to open it, because I could have said, no. And I could have not done the work and I would have still seen growth, but not the amount of growth that I received because I was willing to see that. It's not comfortable and it's not easy, but that is where change happens when you're willing to do that. I'm wondering if you were talking with someone who is an athlete and maybe it's a coach and you were telling them they want to get started with this EFT work. And they say, okay, how would we get started with it to uncover maybe some of the blocks? Because for myself, I didn't exactly know what the block was, but knew I wanted to get uncomfortable in some ways. I knew I was carrying almost a heavy backpack of things, but didn't exactly know what was in that backpack. So maybe if you don't even know what's holding you back a little bit for your performance or the enjoyment of movement in general, where would they start either to work with you or work in general with this EFT?
So I actually have a video up on YouTube that talks a little bit more about why EFT, the science behind it. And I guide you through a tapping sequence at the end, like all of the different tapping points. That's a good place to start. Just learn the tapping points and just tap through with no words, right? You're going to start to create a sense of safety with tapping itself and start to feel the effects on your nervous system, which I think is really important. We have to feel safe with these things. Then the next step I would recommend is, if you're carrying around this heavy bag and you don't know what it is, pick one word, a feeling word that you're feeling. Maybe it's fear, right? And as you go through the tapping points, you just say, I have this fear. I have this fear. I have this fear. And if you can name the fear, I have this fear of failing. I have this fear of judgment, whatever it is, name the fear as you're going through the tapping points and just see what comes up. A lot of times just naming something like that, like I said, and then going through all the tapping a couple of times will bring something else up to the surface. And then if something else pops into your head, oh, because this person bullied me, right?
Yeah.
Then, okay, this new thing popped into your head. Now let's tap on that. I want to release this person's bullying language. I don't want to believe what this person said about me, right? Tapping through that. So that's one way that you can do it on your own to start going deeper. It will work. It will take a little bit longer than if you book a session with someone and start to get going.
How would they book with you? So since we're there now, how do they connect with you?
So on my website, I have a page that's just dedicated to my healing series. I call it Luminescent Healing Series. I don't have a page for tapping specifically because I use a lot of different tools along with the tapping. So if you purchase a healing series, I offer 3-session, 6-session, or 12-session packages. We will use tapping, but we'll utilize some of the other tools as well. Like, for example, with you needed the Ho'oponopono prayer.
We did breath work and we did a lot of things. It would take a couple hours for us to talk about that on the podcast. But that's important to mention. There was a lot of things that we did during those 3 months. And
so one of those series will allow us to start peeling back the layers. I typically recommend, if you're brand new to this, I recommend doing at least 6 sessions to get started. 3, we're going to start to identify the stuff, but you're probably not going to get as deep into rewiring it as you would in 6 or 12 sessions. But I do offer a free call for us to just talk a little bit. We can get to know each other. You could see if it's really right for you, if it's a good fit. And I also offer, just to people who attend my live events or who listen to podcast interviews, that sort of thing, I have a special session. It's called Illuminate Your Blocks. It's an energy scan. You've done this with me before.
Yeah.
And it is a session where we just talk through what's going on with you a little bit. And then I guide you through a meditation and I do a scan of your energy field and just see where things might be a little sticky, where things might be a little blocked. And I give you a few tools, a few things that you can start implementing right away to start shifting that energy. And there's no obligation to sign up for anything else after that. It's just a way for us to kind of get to know each other and get a lay of the land in terms of what's going on with your energy system. So that's a good place to start if people are feeling like they need a little stepping stone.
Perfect. I will definitely put all of those links in the show notes for all of my listeners who are listening right now. I cannot tell you enough how impactful and transformative my work has been with you and those who are listening. It is life-changing, quite literally life-changing. If you see me out in the world and many people say, you don't know what you just did for us here, Mandy does that for me. So thank you for that. I'm really, truly grateful for it. I will continue to work with you. As we said, this is not something that I'm done with. This is a practice. I did 3 months and I've already said I'm figuring out where I'm going next, and there will be a next level of things. If you're just getting started, start with that call and then see what feels good. Mandy is not the type of person. I've been on some calls and during the course of building my business where I feel like right away people are saying, you need to do this or else. That is not the vibe here at all. It is very heart-centered, and she really does want what is best for you, and you will get off of the call thinking, I need more of that. she is not pressuring you in any way. So
Yeah.
go to those show notes, click, and make sure you check it out.
And I think to speak to a beautiful compliment that you gave me at the beginning of the call about being a good space holder and creating a sense of safety, I think that is due in large part because of the belief that I have that there's nothing wrong with you, that no one is broken. There's nothing wrong with anyone. It's just about uncovering the power that you have inside of yourself. I'm not a guru. I even hesitate to call myself a healer. I know a lot of other people will give me that title, but I'm not doing the healing. You're doing the healing. And it's just about helping you uncover those things inside of you. And that makes me really happy and really excited.
I love that. Perfect way to describe it. I do think everyone should experience it. And I know you go into the corporate space too. People who are listening to that, reach out and talk with her about how can you start to bring this to your people, because that is also a good way for them to just get a little taste of it. Sometimes people aren't exposed to it and know what it is until you bring someone in. And then they say, where has this been my whole life? So
I have a whole page on my website just dedicated to place wellness that people can find.
Yeah, so they can check that out as well, because I do have a lot of listeners who reach out to me and just tell me about guests. Say, I loved hearing that. So if that is you, make sure you click around. I'll put all the links there so you can find it right down below. Thank you for sharing all of that. We're going to move to our last question. And if you have any advice at the end, we'll throw that in for everyone. So don't leave us. I know she's going to share something at the end. If you had the opportunity to go back or forward, I know we both love the present moment, but if you could experience anything just for one day, where are you headed and what are you going to do?
Okay. So I'm a lover girl.
Okay.
I've been single for a few years now. So I was thinking a lot about this question. Let me tell you, dating is hard. Dating at age is really hard. And so I think what I would do, I would love to go forward in time to a place where I have found my person and I am in a secure, mutually respectful, like loving, beautiful relationship, and just see that and experience that to help resource a little bit of hope to myself now that's out here in this jungle of dating.
Right.
Because, even with all of these tools and practices, life is just hard sometimes. And so I think going forward, seeing that for myself and bringing that back and just reminding myself, oh, it's all going to work out. It's all going to be okay. I think that would be helpful for me.
I love that day for you. I think it would be an amazing thing to get a little glimpse of that.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe somebody's listening right now and they're like, let me click to
DMs are open.
My DMs are open. I will put her Instagram link on there too, everyone. So, but you just never know. And I think that day would be really cool for you to see a glimpse of. And I know it is coming. We might have to do some visualization around that, but I love that. I love that answer for you. And I'm excited to see it happen. Not going to lie, because you deserve that and they deserve you, because man, what a gift. What a gift.
We'll call you. You'll be one of the first people to know.
Awesome. I love it. I can't wait to celebrate it. I'll have to be taking a trip to Miami. I would love to be there for that. Before we go, is there any last words of wisdom, or I wish people knew this about energy work, that you would like to throw out there into the podcast airways that we can share with everyone?
Oh gosh, there's so many things. I think just the number one thing I just want to re-emphasize to everyone is that you are an energy worker. You're already doing it. Every time that you are feeling something hard or sticky and you want to go for a walk, or even every time that you gasp and you clutch your chest, you've seen me do this a few times. This is our thymus gland. This resets our nervous system when we hit this part of our chest. You're already doing stuff. It's built into your DNA. It's built into your survival mechanism. It's just a matter of knowing what you're doing, knowing when to use it, knowing how to control it. So don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it at all. Energy is real. It's around us all the time. When you hear somebody say, the vibes are off, or I don't like your vibe, that's your energy. That is energy. It is all around us and it's all real. And it's not something that we have to be afraid of or shut ourselves off of, because we actually have way more control over it than you think. So don't be scared.
I love that message. I think it's great for everyone to remind themselves of that. And it's so keeping it real, which is exactly who I am. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today and sharing all of this. I know people are going to be rewinding and sending me messages like, I tried this. I'm going to go do that. Probably watching your video and definitely, hopefully connecting with you, maybe sliding in the DMs too. Who knows? So I love spending time with you. I'm looking forward to seeing more of your success as well. Thank you so much for hanging out. And everyone who's listening with us today, make sure you go down, as I said, connect with Mandy, start doing the work. If you're feeling like you're carrying something that is a little too heavy, even if you're not exactly sure what it is, this is the place to start. You will see epic growth. It's worth it. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? You need to go be doing this. So thank you again, Mandy, and the rest of you go crush the rest of this week.
Thank you for hanging out with Kate today. And whether you're going to coach, teach, cheer from the sidelines, or hitting the field yourself, remember, mindset is everything. Don't forget to follow the show for the latest episodes, as we all need a little extra motivation, humor, and sanity in our busy lives. Now, go and unleash your champion within you, one step at a time. We're always rooting for you.